What's up, everybody? Back with another Survivor video in week 13 of the NFL season. As always, we're picking just about every game that's favored by more than 3 points. Here to fill that ninth team are the Vikings at home, favored by three. Before we get into the picks, just a general piece of advice is you should be doing each week is taking a look at the weeks ahead for your potential teams and weighing whether you might be able to pick this team in a week in the near future or not down the road. Just playing a little strategy game, as we like to mention always. Starting the video off with the first team I think you should be cautious with. That's the San Francisco 49ers at home against the Dolphins, who look great and currently leading the AFC East right now. Niners favored by 3.5 points, which is basically about where I thought this line to be. Coin flip game here against two. Very much now it seems like Super Bowl contenders with the way both these guys have been playing of late. Yeah, I just think that it's tough to call. This is kind of an unstoppable force with that Miami Dolphins offense meets an immovable object with this really solid 49ers defense who just put up zero against the Saints opposing offense there last Sunday. You guys watched these videos enough, you probably know by now I usually side with the team with the better defense, and that's certainly the Niners here. But the Dolphins have looked very scary this season, taking down teams like the Bills and other good teams. So this is not uncharted territory for this Dolphins teams that's been playing very well and beating good opponents this year. So definitely one to probably stay away from. You're going to get better picks than the Niners. There's not often there's a team that's straight up, even with these guys such as the Dolphins, as this spread is implying. So something to definitely be worried about. And I think probably best to stay away from the 49ers this week if you have the option. A lot of line movement here for this next game. Seahawks at Rams. Line open at -4. It has since moved to -8. So the public's been hammering it. But don't let that line movement deceive you. Usually what the line opens at from Vegas is the fair line. So we're saying that -4, 4.5 is what the fair objective line should be. And then the public just piled on to the Seahawks, and that's what moved to -8. But don't let that influence your decision here. As you know, it's all the scariest thing in Survivor is a team on the road against a divisional opponent. That's exactly what's happening right now. So the Seahawks are traveling to LA. They're getting a little bit more integrated with that offense and a little bit well meshed as they're getting used to life without Stafford here. I think that helps them a little bit. And they didn't look all that terrible against the Rams. Their defense is against the Chiefs. Their defense is certainly really good, but when you give the ball to Patrick Mahomes that many times, he's going to put up more than 30 points in you just about every time. But I like, honestly, what I saw of the Rams, all things considering. I never thought they really had a chance to win that game during any point of it, but I was impressed partially by the way they played and their toughness here. Again, home team against the divisional opponent. Seahawks do look really solid this year, and they're certainly making a run for the playoffs right now. But I can't go a video without really seriously telling you for a team that isn't as proven as the Seahawks that you should be wary of them on the road against the divisional opponent. Another pick here. Eagles here against the Titans at home, even coming after a pretty big win over the Packers there on Sunday Night Football here. I just don't. The reason I want to proceed with caution this one is because I just don't think the Eagles are 6 points better than the Titans here. I do think this is a game that they should win, as the Titans are certainly the team with less talent here. It's hard to be a team with more talent than the Eagles in the one loss in the way they've been playing this year. But something about when you're playing the Titans and you're playing a Mike Vrabel team and you're playing a team with Derrick Henry that can totally change the course of the game, it always scares me. That being said, or in addition to that, I think with how good the Eagles team is, you're going to get a lot better spots, even with the 5 weeks left throughout the season, than picking them against, another playoff team that is very well coached and really good in the run game and just very sound defensively. And in really all aspects in football, except the passing game, could use a little bit of work for the Titans right now. Otherwise, they're a really solid team that I think any team should be scared to go up against, just in the capability that they have to beat any team with their coaching, game planning, and scheming. So all that being said, I do think the Eagles, they should win this game. I'm not saying that I think the Titans are going to win it by any means, but I do think the Titans keep this game close, and that scares me enough to say think twice about picking the Eagles this week. And then the last game I wanted to mention that I think you should be cautious about, and think twice before picking your survivor leagues, is the Vikings at home against the Jets. I think this line probably surprises a lot of people, as again, the home team, the home team implies that sorry, home team implies 3 points to spread anyways. So this Vikings being -3 at home is saying that they are even with the Jets, which I think is crazy. It hasn't happened in, I can't imagine how many years you think the Vikings were ever even with the Jets in terms of talent. But this is not the same old Jets that we've been used to watching the last decade. This is a team that, has some weapons on offense. Garrett Wilson being a key rookie draft pick that is really panning out for them. Breece Hall seems to be the same way. He's just on injured reserve right now. But that defense is working out really well. And, Mike White, against even one of the worst defenses in the league, however, against the Bears, looked pretty solid on Sunday. So this is a team that, is playing well and, is certainly making a case for being a legitimate playoff team. The Vikings here, I think part of it might be that they're due for a loss and they're playing just a really good defensive front against the Jets. And that's kind of been what has defeated the Vikings this year. You go back a couple of weeks to the game against the Dallas Cowboys, their defense absolutely shut them down. This Jets defense is very similar in composition in the way they play football. And that's what I think is contributing to this line being the Vikings only -3. I think on paper and just maybe anecdotally in your mind, you would think the Vikings should be blowing out the Jets. But I think a lot of that is recency bias, going back to just this season alone, how good the Vikings have been, but also the past seasons. But you can't let that recency bias cloud your memory and, take over your survivor picks. I think it's a good game to lay off the Vikings and try to find value and, a winner somewhere else. Moving on to the best pick. It normally it is a team on the top of this list favored by the most points, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. At home against the Colts here, long week after playing on Thanksgiving and beating up on the Giants here. I really like the matchup that the Cowboys have over the Colts in terms of their defensive line against the Colts offensive line. All season long, no matter who's been starting at quarterback for this Colts team, they have had a really hard time, one, run blocking for Jonathan Taylor, but even more so pass blocking for who's at quarterback. And this D line for the Dallas Cowboys, headlined by Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year this year, it's going to happen, is just been lights out. And allowing this defensive scheme for the back 7 guys to do whatever Dan Quinn wants them to do. And they're certainly talented enough to do it. But guys like Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker and Trayvon Diggs having a great year at cornerback, which is surprising to me, but he's really been building on his season last year. This defense, simply put, is 2-over-1 for the Colts offense, is especially with how one-dimensional it is, and given their running back just run game woes at time, even with Jonathan Taylor, and especially since Dak Prescott has been back to this Cowboys offense, they've been #1 in the league with him. Couple that with a top 5 defense against an inferior offensive line with the Colts, I think the Cowboys are in a really good spot here to take advantage and get one step closer to maybe trying to take over that division title from the Eagles, but at the very least lock up the 1 seed in the #1 wild card spot. And the best value here, for the first time this season, the Browns on the road against the Texans here. This will be the return to Deshaun Watson against his former team, the Texans. As of course the NFL designed that when they signed up his suspension, but regardless, it makes for good entertainment. And I really don't even think this game is so much about Deshaun Watson. It's more about, as it has been all year for this Browns team, the run game with Nick Chubb, especially, and Kareem Hunt there beside him. This Texan team simply cannot stop the ball on the defensive side, whether the opposing team is passing or running the ball. You saw that against Miami. They didn't even need to play 2 or all 3 quarters or the 3 quarters because they were just up by so much. It's really a team that is I would say mismatched and underperforming at just about every single position, besides maybe the running back with rookie Dameon Pierce back there. Otherwise, there's no spotlight on this team that you can shine to say, look, the Texans are at least decent. They are inexperienced and unskilled at just about every facet of football here. And even the Browns, who aren't the best, will be able to take care of that with their solid run game and a few playmakers on defense. Myles Garrett being #1 that comes to mind. And take a look at the schedule here. Thinking about the Browns the rest of the season, there are 3 of their 5 games left against divisional opponents, 2 of them being on the road. One of them against the Saints team. That's a possible spot to take them. But then week 17 on the road against a playoff Washington team, not your best pick either. So really good spot to pick the Browns here, as I don't really see many teams take many people taking them throughout the rest of the year. You can certainly see in week 16, if you're even considering them, I think like a team like Buffalo against Chicago, Tampa Bay on the road against Arizona, and maybe even the Vikings at home against the Giants are better picks than that. So I think there's a good value here for the Browns. Not the best pick, but I think a great pick this week is the Ravens at home against the Broncos. Ravens coming off a loss. Obviously, the Broncos are too, but it's a lot different because their expectations for the season are way out the window with the way this offense has been playing. I'm surprised Nathaniel Hackett still has a job, and I have a suspicion that by the time some of you watch this video, he might actually be fired in the next coming days. But that being said, if he doesn't win against the Ravens, I think he is for sure out the door. This is a Ravens team that, Lamar Jackson had a very improved passer rating last week against the Jaguars. So that was a good step up to see him, improve at least on a weekly basis as a passer. But the thing with this Ravens team is the run. They're going to be able to put up points in a lot of ways just because of the way they like to run the ball between the tackles with whoever is lined up in their running back by committee, and also with Lamar Jackson there too. Throwing Mark Andrews into play action in this offense is good for 21 plus points a game. And that's something you can't say about the Broncos. They've been inept on offense all season long under Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, something that most people, if not everyone, did not see coming. Their defense is really good, but no matter what your defense is playing, it's really hard to scheme and game plan against Lamar Jackson. He's just so explosive and unpredictable at times that it's really hard to stop them. I just don't know how the Broncos put up enough points to beat the Ravens, simply put, because they haven't done it all season long against anybody. They let up way more points against much inferior offenses than the Ravens. I can't imagine that they changed the script this week. I also think morale is completely low. I'm sure players have given up in the season and their head coach, and that just leads to all signs to the Ravens taking a big win here and, trying to secure that AFC North title. Here's some iffy picks. I don't think they're great picks. I don't think they're perceived with caution. They fall somewhere in between. Two games I'm going to talk about right away, the Bucks, Saints, and Bills, Patriots, a couple divisional matchups. The Bucks -6 here. They've been struggling against the Saints in the recent past, which is no basis to pick just solely alone off that. But it is telling that, these two teams definitely play each other very difficult, very, very tough when they played in the past. The Saints obviously don't have a great offense. You saw they couldn't put up a single point against San Francisco, but they did limit the 49ers, who have a plethora of weapons on offense, to only 13 points. And that, I think, is just a good point for the Saints defense, that they can really limit a lot of good teams in this league. And the Bucks offense has not been looking all that solid all that lately. And so I think this is going to be a very low-scoring, very close game that's decided by a field goal. I think the Bucks should win this, especially coming off a loss and trying to, build momentum as they go into the playoffs with Tom Brady, who's obviously no stranger. But that being said, I think this is a closer game than people think. I don't think it's quite perceived with caution because it's getting closer to a must-win for the Bucks, but something to definitely be aware of. If he picks for the Bills here, I think this is the one they also, it's almost a must-win for both teams, which makes it even scarier to pick the Bills here. Also, on the road, divisional game, terrifying in terms of survivor picks. This is definitely a borderline perceived with caution, but I think the Bills' offense just way overshadows the Patriots. Now, thanks Mac Jones. I've never been a Mac Jones believer. I think if you just stop this Patriots run game, then they really struggle. I think the Bills will be able to do that, especially with guys like Ed Oliver up the middle, who's been playing great lately. But again, if you pick, because on the road, divisional game, Bill Belichick, the script, how it goes. So something just to keep an eye on and think twice about before picking the Bills. But that's what I got for the video. Again, I think the Cowboys have a great mismatch against the Colts, especially up front, the offensive, defensive line mismatch. Ravens a great pick here against a Broncos team that has mostly given up and really not shown the ability to put up more than 2 touchdowns a game. Really good value there for the Browns too, is one, you're not picking them many times throughout the season. They're also not favored by this much that often. It helps when you're playing the worst team in football in the Texans here, who are looking like they're shaping up for to be the #1 pick in the draft. But that is the video. Best of luck picking games, picking Survivor in week 13, and I'll catch you all next week. Best of luck.